Hello and welcome to the JackCast, the Swansea City podcast. You are in for a treat tonight. That is, of course, unless you actually like Swansea City. One thing that we do have going for us is that joining me, Guto tonight, we've got two people as opposed to the usual one. We've got Steve as usual, but we've also got Matt, who is making a very welcome return to the podcast. How are you both?
Yes, very good, thank you.
Good to have you back, Matt. We'll start with you since you've been away for a long time. You've probably got a lot to get off your chest. The last pod, we were discussing how much we were looking forward to the Luton match, thinking, we'd had a great start against Middlesbrough, showing a lot of energy, the kind of enthusiasm that you want to see after returning from a break. And we thought that we were going to take that kind of enthusiasm, energy, that good football into the Luton game as well, seeing as they were bottom of the league. That didn't happen, did it?
No, and it's the hope that kills you, isn't it? Especially with the Swans. I mean, we should know by now not to expect the expected with the Swans. You've just got to assume the opposite's going to happen a lot of the time. So, yeah, it was such a shambolic performance. There was a lack of interest, a lack of fight. Everything went wrong, and I was talking myself up prior to the restart of the football, thinking the last time we had a big break in football was obviously before the season started, and we all saw how August went with the fire in our bellies, and then Middlesbrough happened, and I thought, you know what? I'm hearing quotes coming out of the club saying we're treating it like a tournament. Of course, we all know Steve Cooper won the World Cup with England, and so he's well versed for tournament football. We thrash Middlesbrough with a very convincing first half display, and you're thinking, well, maybe if we can treat this as knockout football, then we've got half a chance here, and we've got bottom of the league now, 2 wins in a few days, and you're just thinking we're off to a flyer, and then we can take the momentum because we don't need a hard, long slog now for the rest of the season. We just need to get over these, these 9 games, whatever, and just make sure that we can get to a point where we can just grind out those results. And winning breeds confidence. I was sure when we go into the Luton game, we just need to turn up psychologically to that game, and we'll be well versed for a well positioned for a playoff push. And like I say, you've just got to expect the unexpected, and exactly that. And for all the good work they did against Middlesbrough, they just did not turn up against Luton. And again, the game we've watched this evening as well against Millwall, it's 2 really, really poor performances in 3 days. There's no hiding away from that. It's a real letdown, and we'll talk a little bit more later on about what that means for us. But way to take knock the stuff in out to the support already so soon after the return. It does feel like it's a massive opportunity missed.
And Joe, Steve, looking back at that Luton game, I think we've played worse this season than we did then. But there are very few results this season that have left me as kind of disappointed and let down as that game did. And that says a lot because we have had some really, really poor performances this season. But I just felt like from the very start, we never turned up. The attitude was wrong from the start. We just never clicked in attack in any way, shape or form, and made life very, very easy for Luton. And to think, after all the good work that had been done in Middlesbrough, we decided to just throw that out the window. And it left me so deflated, that match, and so frustrated. I went out for a walk afterwards and saw a swan in the canal. I just wanted to go up and kick it. That's how angry I was afterwards. Everything that looked like a swan, I was like, I hate you. You're ruining my life. But it's symptomatic in many ways of our season. Every time this season, since August then, that we have taken the tiniest little step forward, we've taken 2 or 3 steps backwards. And that's how it felt for me.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you, really. It's really frustrating, isn't it? Because you just feel like after the week before, where we played so well, we just didn't then take that into the next game, which is what we really should have done. There was no excuse for the way that we played on Saturday. Really, it was boring again, wasn't it? We just didn't create a lot, and it's reminiscent really of a lot of the games that we've seen this season. I don't know what the clear plan was from open play, we created very little, and yeah, obviously I'm not saying we necessarily deserve to lose the game, but then the one chance that they've got, then they've taken it in the second half. They were a bit better than that in the first half, but yeah, we paid a price, and then obviously we just didn't look like scoring afterwards. So it's a strange one, isn't it? Really, and it sort of sums us up. We're just not as good as we should be. That's the underlying point, and obviously some of the decisions from the manager were a little bit odd as well, which I'm sure we'll get on to. But yeah, it's just really frustrating. You just felt like it was a big opportunity missed, really, and the type of opportunity that you look back on at the end of the season and go, because you can't win games like that. That's why we're not in the top six, and we can have no complaints, unfortunately.
No, and one decision, Matt, which was very widely discussed on Saturday, was the decision to leave Besson Salina out of the squad entirely, which is definitely a surprising one, because I still think he's our most creative player. He's not had a great season by his standards by any means, but still he is a player that's got that capacity to at least do something. And if you want a goal, then you want to chuck Salina on, even if you don't know what you're going to expect. You're going to chuck him on just in the hope that he can do what he is capable of doing. And the one thing I saw from that Luton game was a total lack of creativity. We were playing the ball in areas that suited Luton. Most of the game was played out wide, and then they'd restrict us to hopeful crosses into the box. Ironically, only after we went down to 10 men did we really start attacking through the middle, which was a bit late, really. But the game was just crying out for somebody like Salina. It really was crying out for somebody like Salina, and he could have just come on and and done very little the way he has for much of the season. But it didn't make sense really to leave him out of the side at all. And it's clear to see that something's gone on between Cooper and Salina. They've fallen out, but I guess it's not a surprise in many ways when you look at Cooper's style and his approach, that he doesn't see eye to eye with a player like Salina, who is a bit of a maverick, who is somebody who can do something a little bit different, who doesn't always, who just tries something a little bit different. It's I don't find it in any way surprising that a player with that skill set does not see eye to eye with Steve Cooper.
No, not at all. And it's no surprise to us. I mean, we've seen it through the season. Salina has never looked happy this season. You've seen a few occasions where he's been subbed, where he's walked straight down the tunnel or kicked a chair or whatever. He's clearly disgruntled. He's been that way for most of the season, and so it's not no big surprise to us. I think we already knew that they didn't necessarily see eye to eye, and we know Cooper likes functional players. He likes a very turgid, strict style of play. He has no room in his ethos for creativity, for intuition, and those sorts of little spells of magic which Salina can bring. Look, we're not going to defend the bloke. He's had a poor season, with or without Cooper's tactics, tying him up, if you like. He still hasn't given what he can give, and what he did give last season for Potter. So it's baffling to me, really, because we know Cooper doesn't like wingers, as in wingers. He's always preferred a narrow style of play. So you'd think that Salina would be his perfect kind of guy, and that's why earlier in the season he'd always play him left wing rather than central attacking, and he'd have Salina cutting in. And obviously, Salina prefers being in the centre of the pitch, which perhaps is where some of these frustrations bore out from. But on paper, at least, Salina's style of wanting to come inside is very much Cooper's way of playing. But no, you're right. He doesn't get on with him. There's no questioning that. And him to be left out of the squad is, well, it is essentially a kick in the teeth when you've got so many subs you can name. and not that it matters with Cooper, because he doesn't like using subs anyway, which, again, I'm sure we'll chat about in a little bit. But it's the fact that he's putting you have to put your own stamp on it as a manager, I guess, but he's not doing it for the greater good. It doesn't feel like. It feels like it's players who fit into what he says rather than players who can get the result. And you would have Salina on the bench even if you hated his guts, because you just know if a situation like a Luton situation arose and you were 1-0 down, and obviously we still had Garrick on the pitch at that time, you could effectively turn around and say, right, okay, we'll take off, I don't know, well, anyone really, and the pitcher wasn't playing particularly well, and bring on Salino and just say, go out there and do it. I mean, Nathan Jones has done a number on us this season. He knew if he restricted us, and he piled the middle of the pitch with his players. He made us go wide. I know exactly what you're saying, Guto, about the style we were playing. We were forced to play wide football because Nathan Jones had 11 men in the centre third of the pitch. He really did his homework on us again, annoyingly. He knows Cooper doesn't like wide players. He forced us to play wide, and we were largely ineffective, which is no real surprise. But Cooper, if we could say he had a plan A, then he definitely doesn't have a plan B. And to be honest, I'm questioning if he has a plan A at all.
Yeah, pretty much. By the way, I hate the name Nathan Jones by now. He's wound me up enough this season. He's given me two of the most miserable days that we've had this season. Steve, Matt there mentioned Garrick. There's no defence of the red card, is there?
No, there's no defence at all. You can't do that. I think the referee didn't help the situation, if I'm honest. I mean, there was a few fouls in there before he eventually blew up, and then obviously there was a bit of a melee. But I think it's pretty obvious you can't punch somebody. I think the only person who didn't think it was a red card was Wyndham Evans, probably, and that says a lot. So yeah, it's a red. He was foolish. He will now pay the price, and it doesn't help us going forward either that he's not available.
Yep, it was distressing against Luton, I'll be honest, and that Luton result made me do something that I absolutely hate doing, and that was describe a match as must win, because it left us, I think, 4 points off the playoff spots going into tonight's game against Millwall, because we are recording pretty much immediately after that match. I was looking at the maths and thinking, well, we probably need to win this game. And the same was true of Millwall, who had, lost their first game back and drawn the other, putting them in a similar position to us. So two teams that needed to win. You'd think that would get both teams going. But I guess it got Millwall going, Steve. It probably didn't do the same for us, did it?
No, I don't think it did. It was largely uninspiring. If we're being honest with it, I don't think we started, too badly, but then we've given the poor goal away. Obviously, Grimes has been found wanting in possession, and then with Bidwell so far up the pitch, he's out of position, and then if you look at it, we're just an absolute shambles at the back between everybody, and then it ends with a player making a nice run into the box, and Byers didn't track him, and obviously it's been stuck away. I mean, if you think stuff like tracking men, I mean, it's basic stuff, and that's really frustrates me, because it just looks, it's a question of desire, I think, sometimes, and I just think they wanted it there more than we did. And I
don't know what Byers was thinking, though, because you think he's about a metre or two behind Mason Bennett, I can't remember who it was who had the ball in the build-up, was kind of like slowing down and looking for options. You're thinking you've got time to look at the replay. He's got time to catch up there and put in a challenge to block it. But for some reason, he just veers away from the most dangerous man in the box. And you're thinking, hang on a second, what was he seeing that made that more of a pressing priority than the player who was running right into the centre of the 6-yard area? I really, it's one of the weirdest pieces of defending that I've seen this season.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I say, you have to question desire, unfortunately, for that incident, and it's poor, isn't it? And I think the other annoying thing is, if you look at it from another point of view, is we never seem to have that type of thing where a midfielder makes like that leap, like run into the box, and that annoys me as well, because it does show you how effective it can be. So yeah, it's frustrating. There's no two ways about it. It was soft, and it's the type of goal you shouldn't be giving away. They didn't have to work hard enough to score that goal.
No, Matt, we changed tactics tonight for the Millwall match. We shifted to a kind of midfield diamond, brought in Jan Danda into the team. And I'll be honest, I said on Twitter today, my catchphrase whenever Jan Danda plays these days is, I really like Jan Danda, but ... that but can be, but I don't think he is strong enough, but he doesn't suit this system, but he is not good enough to start, but he needs more help from the team. And there are just so many buts with him. There are so few situations where Jan Danda is actually suitable. And I think earlier on the season, we were talking about how Jan Dander's given one game and then we don't see him for 3 matches before he reappears on the bench, etc. And that's obviously continued, and I don't think it's good for his development. But there is a side of it you can say, well, I kind of understand it because he only suits certain games, Jan Dander. I don't think Millwall away was a match that suited Jan Dander in any way, shape, or form.
No, it didn't. And again, it is the Jan Dander but situation, isn't it? He needs protection, Jan Dander. He's clearly not strong enough or physical enough to impose his own game. So we either need to start playing Roberto Martinez-esque triangles where we're moving the ball so quickly around the opposition that they're not getting near us. And of course, if you think back to the Martinez team, they were full of brutes then, of course. So it is doable, but you need to have a very strong ethos and a very clear way of playing, which we have absolutely not got. So it leaves players like Dander exposed because, and time again, today I saw our midfield get it. I'm not going to, I normally end up throwing someone under the bus at this point, but I'm going to refrain from doing it tonight. Let's just say a team member would get the ball, take a touch, take another touch, and wait for a Millwall were not even particularly good at pressing, but when they did press, we would end up passing it back into defence and then lumping the ball forward. What is that? That's not a style of play. That's not a tactic, surely. It can't be, let's try and lump the ball up against Millwall of all teams. It seems really, really short-sighted to think that's an opportunity to gain an advantage. It was hoofball, unfortunately, for a large part of this evening's game. And again, that's another thing that certainly doesn't suit Jan Dander. But we haven't got the players or the style to protect a player like him, to allow him to express himself. When he does get into pockets of space, he can be dangerous. He's a very good striker of the ball from 20 yards out if he can get the space. But he needs players who will work hard. And I think one of the most telling things about this season from last season is we loved last season for one main reason, was that our players looked like they cared again, which they hadn't for the 3 final years in the Premier League, which we obviously talked about at length. They would run through brick walls for Graham Potter, and again, I'm not seeing that this season. I don't want to preempt what may happen in the coming weeks, but I really feel like Cooper may have lost the dressing room. I don't think the players are really working hard for him. I see the players, you mentioned George Byers there. George Byers 12 months ago gets to that ball before the striker or the midfielder arriving in the box. He didn't even try this evening, and that is for me, that is a damning indictment of Cooper ball. I don't think the players are necessarily buying into it. I don't think they understand it. There's some players arguing with each other now, and really and I don't think they know what Cooper wants them to do. I've heard, I haven't seen it at first hand, I've heard it, second hand of someone else, that he said after the game this evening that there was some tired legs out there. This is a man who fundamentally will not use substitutes, and he cannot use tired legs as an excuse. It just doesn't make any sense. He's literally hanging himself in front of the press. You cannot say there's some tired legs out there. I trust that he did actually say this. Why are the media not picking him out on it and saying, well, you're not making subs, you've got 9 of them on the bloody bench, would you use some of them then? But
I actually checked out just before the restart. Look through the statistics that on substitutions. Took me an absolute age to do it, but only one manager in the entire championship has made fewer substitutions than Steve Cooper. That was before this had all, restarted, and you had 5 extra subs. And only 2 clubs in the entire division had their subs play fewer minutes than Swansea subs this season. So, I mean, we knew before this season this restart even got kicked off that Steve Cooper does not enjoy using his substitutes. He likes leaving players on the pitch. And you can see that tonight, because I think he waited until basically near the hour mark before taking Jan Dander off, even though he was clearly just drowning out there, absolutely dying on his feet. He was bullied every time he got the ball. He couldn't get into the game at all. The only reason he was on the pitch was in the hope that he may get a pocket of space 25 yards out, but that was never going to happen. It was blatantly obvious that he needed to be taken off and replaced, and he waited so long before doing it. I was thinking, if you need that much persuasion just to make that most obvious of sub, then surely there's something wrong.
And the other one was of course Wilmot, who couldn't play on when he picked up his injury. So you're looking at it and you're thinking, fair enough, okay. If the man knows and likes his starting 11, and that's what he's going to stick with, I don't agree with it at all. He needs to have a squad for a reason, and needs to use a squad for a reason. And man management, or game management rather, I should say, is absolutely pivotal. You won't win anything ever without game management, and he has none of this. But fair enough, if this is his way and he plays his 11 for 95 minutes, that's Steve Cooper's way. What you don't get to do is use that as a bloody excuse post-match. You can't have it both ways. You either don't make the subs and then hold your hands up and say, well, you know what, those are my best 11, and I just, I needed to see how it went. You don't get to complain about tired legs. That's not an excuse if you were the man choosing not to refresh those tired legs. So he's made himself look like a bit of a tit, to be honest with you. I mean, it doesn't really come across well. And, why no one's picking him up on it, I don't know. But, yeah, as you say, 60 minutes gone today for him to sub Selena on the pitch. And almost immediately, in the first 3 or 4 minutes Selena was on the pitch, he got the ball 4 or 5 times in dangerous positions. He maybe didn't do much with it, or he didn't do the right thing with it, but you saw the difference right away. He was making things happen at the right end of the pitch, and he was getting Millwall on the back foot. It would have been interesting if he did, stick a shot in top corner, where the Cooper would have, used him next week. But it's one of those things, isn't it? We didn't deserve to win today. If anyone had to win that game, it had to be Millwall, because they were the better team. Simple as.
Do you want me to read out the quotes from Cooper? I've got them in front of me.
Yeah, please do, yeah.
Okay, so this is what he said. We're going to have to be good with team selection to look after the legs. We haven't got some players available as well. It's going to be a long schedule for 3 weeks. In terms of the style, we're not going to change it now. We're trying to win games of football. We'll always strive to do that. The plan won't change. I just want us to get better. If we are at our best, we play fast, attacking football on the floor with good creative play, and we're creating loads of chances. When we're like that, great. But it's when we're not like that, that's where we need to be a bit more efficient and harder to beat. That's where we're focusing. Have we played fast, attacking football on the floor with good creative play, creating loads of chances this season, gentlemen?
That could have been taken from a fantasy novel. I mean, if I'm honest, that's just outrageous. And Steve, I mean, he says we're not going to change our style. The style changed entirely just from Saturday to tonight. On Saturday, we were passing the ball around into areas which were, very unthreatening to Luton, and we weren't creating anything, but we were at least keeping the ball on the floor for much of the game and trying to pass it. I mean, tonight it was just we didn't have any wingers, so we were just kind of booting it down the pitch for most of that time. I can't remember how many times either Woodman, Cabango, or Wilmot just kind of played an aimless ball up front, and which wasn't really close to anybody. It was direct. It wasn't on the floor, and that seemed to be the tactic. So I don't get where he's coming from. One, that when we're at our best, we play it on the floor and creative, etc. But also where he gets this idea that we're not going to change our style of play. I mean, if we do have anything resembling a style of play, it changed entirely from Saturday to today.
Yeah, I just think he's watching a different game, or he's living in a different world, to be honest with you, because I don't even know what to say. That's the thing. It was so poor tonight, really. Like I said, the amount of long balls, and just, let's be honest about it, apart from that free kick that we did manage to score, we just offered nothing. We were really poor. We were lucky to get a draw. think that's the truth of it. You can't look at it in any other way, really. It was poor. We just didn't do anything. We were poor on the ball. Like I said, we created pretty much nothing, especially from open play, and just, what were we doing? I don't have an answer for it. And it's felt like that too often now. We're going backwards, and it's going to continue to happen, I think, unfortunately, under this manager.
Sure, that's a very good point. And Matt, I asked you about this. In the last 2 games, I mean, I cannot remember any good chances that were created from open play. I can't remember us testing the keeper, going close from open play. All our chances have come from set pieces. Now, it's good that we can be threatening from set pieces, but come on, we've got to have more than that, surely.
Yeah, I know. I'm just trying to think. That Brewster chance was obviously from a set piece as well, wasn't it? It was a knockdown.
Kick, I think, wasn't it? Free kick from Grimes.
It's probably 2.5 games then from the first half of Middlesbrough, when we first last created anything in open play, which is quite shocking, really, isn't it? It is when you look at the front 4 of Ayew, Brewster, Gallagher, and say for the last half hour today of Selina, or another Garrick or Dander, whoever it is that 4th player, is good enough, very, very good enough for this league to be creating 4 or 5 decent chances a game. You can't stick them all away, otherwise football would be a lot easier than it is. But you can create good chances, and you know what? With a striker like Brewster and Ayew up there, you should be sticking more away than you're not. But we have the players. I cannot fault Steve Cooper's contacts. I cannot fault the actual players he's brought in. Mark Gurley aside, I'm not sure about him still, obviously. But the players he's brought in have been of a caliber which you'd look at and think, yeah, we can do something here. But he's just got no idea how to use them. He's got no concept. It really upsets me because I'm thinking a good manager with Steve Cooper above him would get this team promoted. Because you look at him and you think Steve Cooper, as a man with contacts, is far and away, the best kind of man you need in this division, who can utilise loan deals and stuff and cheap offers where you get players far above your station. We're still funding Andre Ayew, of course, and he's levels above this division on his day, but we're not making the most of it. We're not getting the best out of those players, and I don't know. They don't think they know what to do. It was 2 or 3 occasions in that. Sorry, just quickly. It was 2 or 3 occasions in that second half, Guto, where Ayew won the header, but Brewster was directly behind him, and Ayew was jumping for the header and flicking it infield. And 3 occasions in a row, Brewster wasn't where Ayew flicked the ball. And I'm thinking, why is Brewster making that movement behind Ayew? Why is Ayew thinking that he should be inside? Why are they not communicating? What is happening on the training pitch when they aim the ball up to Andre Ayew, who's fantastic in the air, so he can win knock-ons? And you're thinking, right, he's going to jump. He's going to win this header. Now he needs to know where to direct that header. Where are you going to... Why is this not happening? That should happen, right? That should be part of the training. But it just seems like they're on different wavelengths. I don't know what's going on the training pitch. And I certainly don't know what games Steve Cooper's watching to think we are playing fast, free-flowing, attacking football on our day, because I haven't seen it this season.
No, and that's the point I'd be making. I mean, I've seen a lot of Swansea fans at various points in the season saying the squad isn't that great. I actually disagree with that. I think it's a very good squad. Actually, it is a squad which should be challenging for a playoff spot. We've got one of the top 5 keepers in the league in Freddie Woodman. We've got a very competent back 4 with plenty of depth as well in the back 4. We've got We've got a player like Matt Grimes in midfield. Okay, midfield is probably our weakness, but we've actually got Gallagher there at the moment, who is a very, very talented young player. We've got creative players like Selina, like Ayew in the squad, and then you've got a striker like Brewster, who we've seen is fantastic, and he just needs chances, and he will score goals. And Steve, I mean, this is a decent squad. And it should be challenging for the playoffs as far as I'm concerned. And it's quite... I mean, Matt said just now that the players don't really seem to be getting Steve Cooper. I don't think Steve Cooper gets the players. I don't think Steve Cooper really understands his players' strengths and how his players work. I'll be honest, because he's asking them to do things that I don't think he's asking them to play in a way which gets the best out of them.
No, he isn't. That's the simple truth of it, and it's been like it all season. I think it probably masked the fact that we started the season so well. He sort of managed to get away with it and hasn't come under a lot of pressure. But he's not getting the best out of players, is he? Can you name me one player that was here last season that's still here now that has been, even at a similar level this season? You could argue Dander's been a little bit better maybe, but he's still very inexperienced at the end of the day. It's not clicking, is it? But I think from a squad point of view, I don't think we are brilliant, if I'm honest. But I do think if we do have our first 11 available, then we should, if we've been lucky with injuries, we should be capable of getting into that top 6 because, like I say, we've got a lot of good players. I mean, Andre Ayew is arguably one of the best players in the league. At centre-back, we're good, and we do actually have depth there. And like you say, goalkeeper-wise, Woodman is good. There's good players in other areas then. I honestly think that we should be, if everyone's fit, which they have been. We haven't really had many injuries or anything other than maybe Rowland and Van der Horn have obviously had issues. But we should be doing better than this. And more to the point, even if results were brilliant, we should be playing better. I mean, if you look at last season, we played well in a lot of games and probably didn't get our just rewards because we cocked up defensively. But you always felt that we were going in the right direction, whereas I think now we are going in the wrong direction. And I think we're going to continue going in the wrong direction. And when that's happening, you do have concerns then about whether something should change.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk, I guess, at a later date about what we see happening in the summer and next season. But Matt, looking ahead to the rest of the season, are we out of the playoff race entirely now? Should we even be considered as playoff contenders, or is that done and dusted? I mean, other results tonight have, ironically, kept it, mathematically at least, kept us as kind of realistic challengers. But is that enough, or does just our form disqualify us?
Yeah, I think, well, your last comment there is the key one, isn't it? I mean, what we got now, we got 7 games left of this season. And I can't see how, you need momentum, right? We always say when you come to the end of the season, it's the late team that makes that surge to the playoffs that have got the great chance of, actually going up. And that's the end goal for everyone up and around the playoffs now. And I can't see where we're going to get it. It feels like the players aren't in tune with Cooper. And like you said, Cooper isn't in tune with his players at all. Mathematically, if you're an alien came down to Earth and you were just shown the championship table and you were said they were 21 points an offer, you would say, well, yes, of course Swansea can get in there. They're only 4 points off. But watching that football and you're thinking, we could have won today 2-1. I don't know how, but imagine we did. We won today's game. I still would be left with so little confidence that we could then mount a challenge off the back of it. And I think it was what Steve just said just now. It's more about the performances. Earlier in the season, we were getting the results which were masking the poor performances. And we can, look back on podcasts gone by, and we did say, I remember saying in particular, if you are playing badly and you can win, that's a good sign. Only if the bad performances are the anomaly and you're just managing. The great teams of football gone by, Man United in particular, when they were dominant, always used to do this. They could play well 7 times out of 10, but on the 3 times they played really poorly, they'd still manage to luck a result or, grind a result out. And that's what made them so successful. And now I was looking at those results earlier in the season. I was thinking, right, okay, he hasn't got the team playing good football yet, but it's important while he works on a style of play that we're picking up really good points. So we're in a great position here. Once he gets us playing good football, we'll be sorted. And 39 games in, I'm still waiting because he hasn't really got it at all into any style of play. So from my perspective, it really didn't matter about today. I felt like, we threw it against Luton. That was the momentum changer for me. That was the one where I thought if we can win against Luton, 2 wins on the bounce, something we've managed so rarely. I don't even know if we have, by the way. Someone can fact check this for me. If we've won 2 on the bounce this season. But having that opportunity to go into tonight's game would have been a huge boost. It would have been a 6-pointer anyway, given the positions that we're in. But we would be in the playoffs now, had we won Luton and got a result tonight. So it was one of those games really where you thought tonight was the after party of what we'd let down from the Luton game. The Luton one for me was where I thought we're not going to get playoffs, and B, we certainly don't deserve to get playoffs. I'm not the first to say it, so I'm not going to claim credit for it. But just imagine where we'd be without August. It's quite scary.
That's the point, isn't it? I mean, our league position at the end of the season will be respectable enough, but it will hide some really worrying form between the start of September and the end of the season. And let's face it, that first month has been doing a lot of work for Steve Cooper. It really has. It has kept his reputation pretty solid. I've seen the odd Cooper out on Twitter tonight. I'll ask you both in turn where you stand on this. Steve, are you Cooper out, or are you still not at that stage yet?
I'm getting pretty close to it now, to be honest. So it's just like, I'm not sure what's happened is worthy of the sack just yet, but I can tell where it's going, and when that happens, and just what do? Do you hang on until it gets to that point, or I suppose you do if you believe it can be turned round, but if you don't, then I don't see the point really. Although thinking about it, do we sack him before the end of the season? I'd probably say no, but we need a new manager for next season. That's what I would say. It would be good in some ways, I guess, if we get his loan contacts in and then sack him. So and then someone else benefits from it. But he's not the man for us, is he? I just don't see it. We're going backwards, and next season is going to be difficult enough as it is without having a manager that I think is taking us backwards. I mean, I think if he's here next season, then he's here for the duration of the season. I think League One might beckon, to be honest with you, and we definitely don't want that. So we have to seriously consider making a change, because I've seen enough over the last few months to suggest that it's going to get worse, and we don't want to go down. It's as simple as that.
Definitely not an enthusiastic Cooper in from Steve. Matt, are you further towards the Cooper out camp, or are you further towards the Cooper in camp?
I am further towards the Cooper out camp, but I'm basically going to say I'm going to echo Steve's sentiments and underline them really, because as he said, if you know he's not the right man, he's not going to. He clearly sees something different. If he's holding his hands up and saying, "Oh, guys, I'm not getting the style of play, or things aren't right." And he's thinking that we can play fast attacking football, but he's not done that since he's been here. So he's seeing something completely different, and bordering on delusional there. I don't think he's going to be able to turn it around. And the problem I have with keeping him past this season is that if we start next season and we lose the first few games, or say come late September, early October, we're struggling, and then we pull the trigger, then we're left, with a new manager coming in midway through the season asking us to save our season, and that is a daunting task anyway. But imagine coming into this team with no money, all those players we know are going to be gone at the end of the season, and probably more besides. And asked to save the season with no pre-season of the team, no work in the transfer market at all. It's going to become nigh on impossible. So if we're looking at it thinking, and we all agree in here, that next season we will struggle with Steve Cooper as a manager, it makes no sense at all to follow that statement up with, but we may as well keep him. For my money, if we know we're going to struggle next season, let's kill it. Let's kill it now. Ideally, for me, do it with, if things don't improve and it becomes mathematically very unlikely over the next couple of games that we're going to get playoffs, then why not? If there's someone ready and available, make that transition. If I know money is a massive issue here with us being able to afford to do this, but give a new manager a few weeks before the end of the season to get bedded in, so he can hit the summer, hit the ground running in the summer, to give us our best chance next year. But I mean, my money is that he will be going, and the sooner he goes is obviously is going to have to be to our benefit, because long term, I can't see it working out.
Do you know what? I just thinking to myself that it may actually be better off in Cooper. It may be more in Cooper's interests if we were to actually like sack him. Not that I'm advocating that necessarily, but if we were to sack him at the end of this season with the Swansea in mid-table, then that actually may work out for him because one, he'll get a payoff, but more than that, his reputation will still be sort of intact. He'll have led us to a mid-table finish, which would be respectable. It would be maybe perhaps a little bit lower down the table than we would have expected, but not much. And he would still be an attractive option for many clubs. If he takes us into next season, I think we're all agreed that we're going to have a difficult summer, and that will probably make us relegation candidates next season, just basing on what we've seen so far under Steve Cooper. Then suddenly his reputation is intact as if he gets sacked at that point. I mean, that's just me speaking out loud. I find it very difficult to disagree with anything you're saying. I'm not Cooper out at the moment or anything like that, but there is an inevitability about our situation. There's no doubt about it. You can see the script being written now. We're not going to be getting in the playoffs this season. All our best players, pretty much, are going to be off in the summer. When you consider, the likes of Joe Rodon and Van der Horn are probably going to be looking for moves. All our loan players are going to go back to their parent clubs, apart from Mark Gay, who's the one who's worked out least so far. We're going to be in a much, much weaker position going into next season because we've achieved this position with a decent squad. What will he do when he's not got that decent squad to rely on? That's what I'm very, very concerned about. And I've seen very little from Cooper to suggest that actually he will be able to get that squad performing beyond its means and beyond its talent. So, if it would take a very brave move from the Swans to sack Cooper, either before the end of the season or more likely in the summer, it would be extremely brave. And I do not think that they would do it unless they had somebody very good lined up to replace him. So I don't think it's going to happen, but I do think there is that I can just see it now. We will start next season poorly, and he will be out the door, and we will be thinking, well, what a waste that summer was. Because everybody can see what's going on here, and it's I can't bring myself to say Cooper out.
You said it all but in name there.
Yeah,
but when the time comes for him to go, we'll all be like, yeah, we could see that, couldn't we? Nobody's going to complain when he actually goes. He seems like a really nice guy. I'd love it to work out, but I've been saying that all season, and it's not working out.
But is he in a position where he could turn around and say, I'll work alongside someone? I mean, because he's a rookie, he's not a experienced pro with a massive ego. So if he's in a position where he can say, do you know what, I need help. I need an assistant next to me, a very astute, tactical mastermind that's next to me who's going to worry about that side of things. I'll worry about the contacts and everything, and we'll do a joint project. Then, it's something that we asked, if you remember a few years ago, about Gary Monk. He needs someone next to him to help him through it, and and not just obviously a rookie in Pep Clotet, but he could have made it better for himself if he had a better number two. And now I'm looking at Cooper and I'm thinking, if he had someone next to him who was the brains behind the operation, if you like, then he in himself is fantastic, got fantastic contacts in the game. He just needs to work on his management.
Let's face it, that would depend on him. That would be very, very brave of a manager to do that, to say, hey, I'm not good enough for this job, bring in somebody else to help me. And judging by Steve Cooper's comments tonight, stuff about we're not going to change our style, at our best we play fast attacking football, there may be too much delusion in the way there for him to make anything close to that kind of gesture. So yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, none of us are too confident that Steve Cooper is going to be here, definitely not this time next year. And there are definitely grave concerns about the direction in which he is taking this club. One thing, today wasn't great anyway, but another piece of news that's come out is that Joe Rodon is quite possibly out for the rest of the season. Matt, have we seen the last of Joe Rodon in a Swans shirt?
Yeah, we have, and it's quite, I don't know, convenient. Is that too much to say? It's one of those Van der Horn-esque things where you're thinking, oh, they're going to be leaving, and they've picked up an injury to make sure that they don't actually pick up an injury. If you get what I'm saying, he's had a knock, he's picked up another knock, and he's going to be out now for the rest of the season. And I feel like being one of the biggest money makers for a club who is absolutely on its arse financially, it might be in a decision that's been made for Joe. I'm not criticising him. It could have been something above. It could have been, Trevor Birch had said, look, you know what? We've got clubs interested. It's hawking. They're sniffing around the 20, 25 million pound mark. We really need that money. And I really don't need you doing your cruciates in the last 6 games when, let's be honest, we're not going up. It's not even as if we got playoffs to worry about. You sit this one out. You'll do the club a massive favour by moving on to pastures new in the summer. And other players will likely follow suit. And for me, it feels a little more tactical than anything else.
Steve, suppose that is the case, and we know the way the club works. That there is, you can definitely believe that something like that could be happening. I mean, is that the right decision then, that we kind of take him out and say, listen, we're going to wrap you in bubble wrap until the summer transfer window comes along, because you are worth 10 to 15 million. So we need to absolutely protect you to make sure that we get every single penny that we can out of you. And he has been injured for much of this season and was injured for a chunk of last season. There is a pattern emerging of injuries here. Is it a wise move now that the playoffs look like an outside bet for us to actually say, no, actually, Joe, we're going to just keep you safe for the time being so that we can cash in the summer?
Yeah, to be honest, we should probably take that view with anybody now. You could even argue that, well, I suppose if we win all the remaining games, still have a chance of it, wouldn't we? So maybe we shouldn't completely throw the towel in, even though realistically we know it's done. But I'd argue with the likes of AU, even like we need to shift him, don't we? Because of the wages that he's on. We've got to get, even if it's a small fee, just to get him off the books, and one or two others. You could even argue, like the loan players, if we think they're not staying, are we better off giving the likes of Liam Cullen a chance? I know, obviously, I really like Brewster. He's done great for us, but do we need to look to the future? Because obviously next season we're going to be relying on a lot of these other players, and maybe taking a look at them. I don't really want to be taking that attitude, but I think it might be for the best, to be honest with you, because we know financially we're not in a great position. Obviously, we've suffered through this virus, and obviously there were issues before that, and now because of it, we're probably going to have less money for the players that we wanted to sell than we would have before. So, I think maybe we do now have to take the longer term view of it. Certainly, once we inevitably probably don't win the next game, or certainly one of the next 2 or 3 anyway.
Yeah, well, we definitely hope that we haven't seen the last of Joe Rodon in the Swans shirt. But if we have indeed seen that, then obviously good luck wherever he ends up, because he is clearly a fantastic young defender who's going to have a great career, and is certainly good enough to make that step up to the Premier League. There's no doubt about that. Let's move on to the next match. Not that it probably as much, if I'm being honest, looking at our current state. Steve, we are playing against Gary Monk's Sheffield Wednesday, who, at the time of recording this podcast, have had a good start to life back in, but well, since the hiatus. They've had a draw and a win against Nottingham Forest, and a win against Bristol City. So 2 playoff chasing sides. They've had a bit of an up and down season, have Wednesday. They were riding high early on, then they had a crash. There were calls not long ago for Gary Monk to go. Those calls seem to be a bit quieter now that they've started this period very, very well. This, on paper, doesn't look like a very easy game for us, in my opinion.
Well, I suppose if we were on good form, we'd be reasonably happy with this one, because we are playing a side that, in theory, don't have a lot to play for. So, it doesn't look like a terrible one in that sense. I do know what you mean. Obviously, they haven't started badly since football has resumed. But yeah, they have had an up and down season, haven't they? Because they were doing quite well early on, and they've sort of fallen away, which they'll probably be a little bit frustrated about. And obviously they've got possible financial issues, haven't they? They could take a penalty or something. So yeah, I suppose it's typical of this division. You don't know what you're going to get. We don't. Well, unfortunately, we probably do know what we're going to get from Swansea, because it's not usually great, is it? But Sheffield Wednesday they're not a bad side. We had an interesting game with them earlier in the season, didn't we? When we drew 2-2, where I think either side probably could have won. We know Monk's style isn't probably the easiest on the eye, but there tends to be a bit more of a plan, should we say, whereas we don't have one. So it's a game where it's going to be probably difficult to predict, I would think.
Yeah, Matt, as Steve said there, the first game of the season was a really interesting one, actually. All action. There were 4 goals, very late goals, actually, for both sides. A couple of the players who were involved on that day, I think I'm right in saying this, won't be involved now. People like Fletcher and Forestieri, I think, have made themselves unavailable for this match because they are looking to leave. What is your opinion on that whole pattern that we've seen in across the leagues? Because me and Steve discussed this a few weeks back, and it's kind of divided opinion among fans. Are players who are kind of coming to the end of their contracts right to withdraw their labour and say, no, actually, I don't want to risk an injury at this stage of the season when I could be getting a move?
No, I think it's disgusting, to be honest with you. I think you see out the season, and if you was any other year, you wouldn't be saying to your team in March, "Oh, do you know what? I think I might be ready. I've done a good season with you. We're 6 months into a good season. We've got a few months left. Yeah, I know we're chasing goals, but actually, I think I might get a move in the summer, so I'm not going to play for you again." Can you imagine? It stinks for me. It just is, and that is all is wrong with football at the moment for me. It's just there's no. I mean, the Charlton guy, was it Lyle Taylor? Is it?
Yep.
The striker for them, who they've made him, and he's later on in his career. Is he like 29, 30? So I get from his point of view, he wants his big payday, whatever, before he retires. But to just leave his club in the lurch, it just feels like wrong on so many levels. There's a lack of humanity there, and I think I know footballers' careers are short, and this is an extraordinary situation we find ourselves in. But no, for clubs to be finishing the season with let me stress, only some clubs are finishing the season with less players, and it's actually their best players who are turning around and saying, "I'm not playing for you anymore. You're not good enough for me," seems to really question the integrity of the competition. Because you've got these clubs now who are maybe wishy-washy clubs or whatever, mid-table or thereabouts, or just below now, and their best players are turning around and saying, "My contract's up. I'm not playing from you from the end of June," and it leaves them with what, 6 games left, and wondering how on earth they're going to plug that gap to get the points they need to get. And because not all clubs are hit by the same issue, nobody could have foresaw us taking a 3-month break from football. So it's not fair that these clubs are being stung this way. So I don't like it. We're fortunate. Well, we'll find out, I suppose. We've got loan signings. I think we've still got a few guys to confirm that they're going to be playing for us. I don't know if they've all confirmed now, but from our perspective, we look like we could get away with it, and we're going to actually do nothing with that advantage. But no, I don't think it's good for the sport, to be honest with you. I think there should have been some restructuring in play that these players would have been seen through to the end of their football season, not the end of their contractual obligations. But that's just my opinion, and the legal side of it is a lot more murky than that.
Can we get a quick prediction from you about this game? Steve, start off with you, please.
I'm going to say 1-1, I think.
And Matt, you haven't done this for a while. You probably
terrible at it. That's why.
Give us a prediction.
I think we'll win this because it's the hope that kills you, and it'll give some fans hope again. I think we'll win this one 1-0.
Wow, I'm gonna go to the other end of the spectrum. I'm in a pretty bleak mood tonight, so I'm gonna say a 2-1 win for Wednesday. They are, as we speak, in a good run of form. We are not in a particularly great run of form, and mind you, Gary Monk's never beaten us in all the games that he's played against us. I think every single game we've played has ended in a draw, and only 2 teams in the Championship have had more draws than the Swans this season, which is tempting me to change. Do you know what?
I'm going to say you're talking yourself into a draw, aren't you?
I'm talking myself into a draw. I think it's going to be 1-1. Yeah, I think it's going to be 1-1. I think it's going to, and it's just going to. And probably the other playoff chasing teams are all going to drop points as well. So we'll still only be like 4 points off the playoffs or something like that. And there'll still be that tiny glimmer of mathematical hope just to prolong the sustained pain that is being a Swansea City fan this season. We're going to look ahead to another game. And that's against Birmingham City, Gary Monk's former team. Who we thrashed 3-0 back in August. Do you remember sunny, lovely August? Birmingham City 3-0 in one of the performances of the season. That feels like such a long time ago now, Matt, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And in fact, I think it was only the last half hour we started scoring, wasn't it? I think it was Norton that started us off actually in that game. It was one of those games where we just found it towards the end, but I mean, it wasn't, Pep Clotet's finest hour, was it? They were a very, very poor team. I haven't watched a lot of them this season, but just looking at the form guide, they've drawn 4 out of the last 5 and lost the other one. So it doesn't look like they're in a particular good run of form themselves. There's a game to play between now and then, of course. But you'd look at that on paper and you think, well, do you know what? If we were had the ambition to go and make that late surge, then Birmingham is definitely the sort of team you want to be playing against, because they don't have a great deal to play for. They're languishing in mid-table. They're not scrapping for their lives. So, and they're not doing great either. So it just looks like they're just going to drift through to the summer. But again, you can't say the Swansea team are going to go anywhere and do anything. And they'll do exactly the opposite of what you expect. So there we go. I'm not convinced. I think he's leaving in the summer, isn't he? I think he's going. Leaving. Yeah, he's going in the summer, which leaves that cloud over the club again, doesn't it? Your manager's not going to be there. How do you start putting in a performance now, or what? Do you just down tools? It's a really complicated and awkward situation there for everyone.
Yeah, they've actually only lost 1 of the last 13 games, but they've only won 4. So I mean, it's decent form, and it's form that's seen them safe, really. They've also scored a few more goals than the Swans this season, so they are capable of scoring, despite what we saw earlier on in the season. Steve, last few years, games against Birmingham haven't always been particularly easy for us. I mean, last season in particular, we had a 0-0 where we had to really dig in, and a bizarre 3-3 against them where they looked like they were going to get 3 points with 10 men until the very last minute. Birmingham can be really difficult opponents. The match earlier on the season was a real anomaly, wasn't it?
Yeah, it seemed to be. I mean, they were strange last year. I think if we're honest, when we went up to Birmingham last season, we were quite poor, and we were a bit lucky to come away with a 0-0. The home one, as you say, we had that late equaliser, but in truth, we should have won quite comfortably. So that was a more frustrating one. I mean, the one this year, if I'm honest, the first half was quite poor. Didn't create a lot, and then once we did get 1 goal, obviously we managed to get a couple in, but it wasn't a brilliant performance. It was a good one, and it was one where we did deserve to win. Definitely one of our better performances this season. But I didn't think it was as good as, shall we say, most of the last few home games of the previous season under Graham Potter, where we were winning games by scoring 3 goals or something. I thought we were a lot better in those games, for example. But Birmingham, obviously the main talk there at the moment is about the kid Bellingham, isn't it? I think he's going to go to someone like Dortmund. I think Man United are sniffing around. So I think he might run rings around us, if I'm honest with you, judging from the reports. But I've not seen a lot of him, so it'll be interesting to see what he's like. But they've had a reasonable season again, because obviously we know Birmingham have had money issues the last few years. So for them, it'll all be really about staying up, I would have thought. So they've achieved that objective, and they'll be quite happy to play the season out, I would have thought.
Yeah, it's obviously difficult to predict a game that's a week away, and we've got another match in between, etc. But again, gonna ask for a prediction just for tradition's sake. Steve, how do you think this match is gonna go? Give me your best guess.
I'm gonna go for a grim 1-0 loss.
This podcast is not advisable if you're feeling a bit low. It really isn't.
After all, last week as well, isn't it? We've given the most positive one in a long time.
You know, this week has probably shown me like the roller coaster that is being a football fan for most clubs. Because like last week we could not have been more positive. We were so upbeat, and this week it's just so depressing. And it's like, oh, it's always like this. It's so grim. It's like we were up at such a high point last season, and in the space of a week we're just depressed again. It's just.
It gets more than that. I remember chatting to some of the guys during the Luton game, and in the space of 10 minutes, I'd actually said the words, "We're going to nick this 1-0. I've got a feeling we're going to nick this 1-0. And within 10 minutes, I'd actually written, "We are absolutely dog shit." I mean, that's what it goes. You can refine it down to minute moments in football matches where you go from positivity, hope, ambition, dreams, goals into throw the towel in, we're shit, let's fold.
It's mad. Why does anybody want to support football? It's just like for most of your existence, you're going to be frustrated. It's just, and it like for all the joy the football brings you, it pisses you off as well. It really does. Matt, on that note, give me a miserable prediction for Birmingham.
Yeah, because we're obviously, like I said, we're going to beat Sheffield Wednesday, which is going to get people going, oh, you know what, we got 2 points off the playoffs, or whatever it's going to be. And they're going to say, come on, let's surge. So yes, we are going to lose following that game to Birmingham. And we're going to be back here doing this conversation again in a week's time, where we're going to be cursing Steve Cooper. And on the note of Steve Cooper, I know I'm going slightly off kilter here, but taking the last quote that have just been sent from Steve Cooper after the game today, which is, "I've told the players we will never give up. We will be fighting until the end. We are going for it. We are absolutely going for it. And I thought we did show that today." So there we go.
You know what? We've had some managers at this club who've loved the cliche and you know spouted some nonsense in their time. Martinez is obviously the front runner there, but my God, Cooper's up there. He really is.
I think the problem is on Martinez. I think he knew he was talking crap. I think this bloke believes it.
Jesus Christ, that's distressing. For what it's worth, I'm going for a 0-0 against Birmingham. Birmingham are a very 0-0 club, aren't they? They're just. There's nothing really attractive about Birmingham as a football club. You know, it's just boring and grim and gritty. And yeah, I think this match is going to reflect that. We get a lot of draws. They're on a very long run of draws. I think this is going to be another draw and a really miserable one as well. And Yeah. I think it may very, very well kind of give us an idea of what's to come for the rest of the season. Just mindless dullness, really. It's that dullness, I guess, is going to be the theme for our remaining games. Well, I hope tonight's podcast has cheered you up. I really do.
You're sounding as deluded as Steve Cooper now.
It's put us in a fantastic mood. We're really, really excited to approach the rest of the season, where we will have more games like Luton and Millwall to discuss. Thank you very much for joining us, and hopefully we will get a podcast up sometime after the Birmingham match to bring you our latest cheery offerings. But until then, thank you very much for joining us.